All right, welcome back. What you're looking at here is the initial dig and excavation for a new addition to an old garage. These are the rough footings. They do get cleaned up, and as you can see here, we pour the footing and we've already have a bit of rebar in. This is some of the forming, and I am missing some of the footage for the backfill and the slab, but the rest of it's all here. So take a look. The next few minutes of the video will be dedicated to wall framing, and you will see some of that process from the ground up and how we work out our layout. At this point, I've already snapped my layout lines, and I'm laying my bottom and top plate, which you'll see are already nailed together, on those lines. This is where the walls will be, but first I have to make sure my bottom plate and my top plates match. Normally I would use a smooth shank 8D hand nail for nailing my plates together, but on this particular day all I had was a few spare ring shank gun nails, and they'll do okay, but not ideal. Obviously, it's important to orient your plans in the same direction as you plan to build. And here you'll be watching as I put together that west-facing wall and the window and door layout for that wall. And for the sake of this video, I laid out the top of my plate with use of the layout stick here, just to show people how that tool is used. If you haven't used a layout stick for framing, it's time to get started. This will make you efficient and fast. And I'm really not sure why people aren't using a layout stick on all their framing jobs. Once I have my plate laid out and detailed, I then remove the plates for the north and south walls so that I can spread my plate for this west wall and begin installing studs. You'll notice a moment ago I was just sweeping, and this is essential that you have a clean, flat surface to frame on. It will help to ensure that you keep your joints all nice and flush. And then again, if you use a 6D or an 8D common nail to nail your bottom and your top plates together when you're doing layout, you'll find they come apart very easily. The one thing on this job site I was missing, regrettably, was a set of sawhorses. But because the job was so small, I went ahead and just cut right off the pile like you can see, and it was a pile. I'm not too proud to say. But your lumber should be stacked, and it should be easy to operate from. And if you don't have sawhorses, you should be working off of the stack so that you have somewhere to stand. Unlike you see me doing here, it's dangerous to walk around on these wood piles, and it's dangerous to mess around stacks of lumber as well. The Stiletto framing hammer has a lot of really good characteristics about it, but I gotta admit, not long after doing this video, the Stiletto hammer that I had wrestled with for about 9 years now was the first titanium hammer I've ever purchased, and I've gone back to my 22-ounce steel hammer. It's my older Deluge. Some people call it a deluge. But it is a great hammer, and when it comes down to hand nailing, I really like to have the extra weight. I think my elbow is happier that I've been using the titanium hammer, and definitely I've had no racking on the head at the top of the handle. But I gotta tell you, I've got to pound away quite a bit more than I would if I was using my steel hammer. Just food for thought. There are so many framers out there that, in my opinion, are missing the boat. They are using nail guns to do their stick framing. And my contention here is that if it's blocking, if it's sheeting, if it's roofing, if it's floor sheeting, again, yeah, grab the nail gun. The nail gun's going to make you way faster. But when it comes to doing conventional wall framing, in my opinion, it doesn't make a lot of sense to not use hand drives. And I get a lot of guff kicked back at me because of that. But the reality is, when you have to offload your tanks and offload your cords and roll out all of your hoses and drag all that stuff around with you, and then the gun inevitably jams, or the racks leave a nail wedged inside the gun, well, you start to realize that you would have been halfway done with your wall framing if you had just used hand drives. You can walk around freely and not drag all that mess around with you. So if you're not good at hand nailing, I'd say to start pounding nails. So here I'm removing the material lift that we used. We actually used 2 of these to lift up the far end of the existing roof so that we could then put in the temporary wall and sister up these new rafters. And yes, I've jumped forward a little bit again. You can see we have some plywood up now, and I've cut my rafters, installed them. You saw the little jig I just made for the tails, and this is what it was looking like while I was installing the fascia and the verge rafter. if you got your rafter layout nice and square, and the building is square, which in this case it never was from beginning, so that was fun to deal with, you should be able to lay down your sheeting pretty easily, especially on a simple shed roof such as this. Although I missed most of the process in this video, I'm preparing the roof for a continuous sheeted metal standing seam roof, as you can see here, and it was all installed in a few hours. The standing seam, lock seam style of steel roofing is really easy to work with and is a bulletproof way to finish a roof. As per usual, many existing structures that are getting remodeled are not in square or have settled, and there's nothing different about this particular garage. So in order to make up for some of the fact that it was out of square, I had to just ever so slightly bring my walls in at a slight taper in order to match up the front with the new build. And so for that reason, we ended up adding another layer of 3/8 ply sheeting of the T111 so that we can get everything to line up cleanly. And it turned out nice.